Hello everyone, I'm Carlos Production and I'm sitting here with Jay Bustillo. We're going to get right to the details for today. Today's interview is going to be about the Texas shooting going on. We have some facts we want to present to you guys and our opinions about it. So Jason, this is the second deadliest shooting in the U.S. history, and it's something really tragic and really, it's a really serious topic that we need to touch on. So let's get to it.
Let's see. Shooter's name.
So the shooter is Salvador Ramos. There were 21 victims in total, 19 students, 2 teachers. One of the teachers' name is Irma Garcia. People say she sacrificed herself to protect these children. She felt like these children were just not children; they were her kids, and it's something really, really tragic that happened in Texas. Jason, you're from Texas.
Yeah, I lived there. I lived there for about 2 years. And honestly, being that it's Texas, it's a state that they're very gun heavy. Like it's rare to go into a town where people don't have guns. Pretty much everybody has a gun. People have guns in their cars, in their homes. And so with that being said, this is really tragic. The fact that people have died. I know there's a lot of conversations like politically, right? There's a lot of political talk. And as to what should we do to prevent this kind of thing from happening again? We have one side that's saying we need to take away the guns, and then the other side saying, no, it's not about taking away the guns. What do you think?
Look, this is very tragic. I have all these facts on a piece of paper. I got 2 pieces of paper just telling me all the facts that just happened on this event. So it's not for me right now. It's not about like what people think. Like what side are you on with the gun?
It ain't even about the politics.
It's not even
right
about.
now.
It's about like why is this happening in our country?
Like first thing is, it's like people really lost their lives over some BS.
Yeah. So let's talk about the shooter. So the shooter's name is Salvador Ramos. He was known to be a loner. He kept a lot of stuff to himself, and he had a really bad relationship with his mother, and most often all those arguments resulted in fights. He legally bought 2 guns after turning 18 in Texas, which I didn't know you could buy a gun at 18 in Texas. And I mean 18-year-olds with gun, it's not something that I really see. I'm 19 years old and I don't go out thinking I'm gonna go buy a gun to protect myself, because I know that's not the society I live on, that I have to carry a gun to feel protected or to do any sort of harm. Another fact about the shooter, he barricaded himself inside the classroom and shot everyone in it.
Nah, that's terrible.
He posted 3 times in Facebook privately. The first post was, I will shoot my grandma, and he actually did. His second post was, I shot my grandma. And the last post was 15 minutes before entering the elementary school, which said, I will shoot in elementary school. There is no history of mental illness between this guy. There's no record of his mental illness. So this is not about mental health, and
which is surprising because it usually is.
It usually is like, oh, he had mental issues, whatever. And this, yeah.
He obviously does. He obviously does have mental issues. He had mental issues if this was going through his mind.
He probably went diagnosed, and like he says, he was a loner and kept a lot of stuff for himself. So for me, it's really important for people to understand ways to prevent this, and it's just talking to people and make sure they're okay, and like try to make sure they're mentally well. Loner people is one of the most dangerous people in this world, because when they explode, a lot of what they've been holding in comes out.
Yeah, be kind to people, because you really don't know what the next guy is going through. I mean, think about it. That quiet kid in the back of your class, everybody's probably making fun of him, but, you expressing some sort of kindness towards him could really make his day. And just because, school shooters, they don't see a point to it. They don't see a reason to live on. They don't see the value in human life, because they've probably seen human life as just something terrible their whole lives. It says he had a bad relationship with his mother. I think it starts at home.
And the problem with me is, we see this, like, before starting this podcast, I was so angry. I literally hate seeing this on the news. I hate it. I look at this and I literally just want to shed in tears and cry, because I just hate seeing this type of stuff. Like 2 years ago, I wrote a song, and it was about school shooters, and like we really living through this again. It was like, what can we do to stop this? Like, who can we blame? Blame the politicians on their gun laws, not passing enough gun laws. Like, blame all these different things, and like there's enough blame to go around for everyone, but that's not really solving the issue. And like what we are about is like, how can we like solve this issue? I know I most definitely can't do it alone.
That's the most important question.
It's a collective society that we need to solve this issue.
Because everybody's so busy arguing about, like who's right and who's wrong, and like what really is the solution. I was having this conversation with my brother earlier, and he goes into the kitchen and he says, all right, whatever we do, we can't let the government take away our guns and this and that. And I'm like, all right, I get it. You're fearful of the idea of having your guns taken away, But what is the solution? Like, what can we really do to prevent something like this? Because it really is a problem, bro. These are kids we're talking about. This is, for the viewers at home, anybody that has a younger sibling, or for anybody that has kids, man.
This hurts me so much. It touches my soul. These innocent 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. Elementary school, man. Really, seriously? Like, how sick in your mind you have to be to do something like this? It just, like, it hurts me just to know that my little brother, 4 years old, is growing up in this type of society. And that's not, when he gets to that age, I don't want him to be able to see those things. And that's why, like, I'm so big on changing the world and doing things one step at a time and the most I can. It's just hurtful to see this.
I think all of this is a great reminder as to how fragile we really are, and as to how unexpected life can really be, because this is a good reminder showing us as to how fragile we really are, how unexpected life really is. Because we wake up, for the most part, if you're watching this, you woke up today, and a lot of times we don't think much of it. We wake up and we feel pretty confident about seeing the rest of the day through. We feel pretty confident that we're going to live to see another day, but it's never guaranteed. Everybody that had tragically passed in this, even in Buffalo, they wake up, they said, I'm going to go to the grocery store today, and then I'm going to go see my cousin later on. Didn't get to see their cousin. The kids, they woke up, they said, I'm going to go to school today. After school, I'm going to play Fortnite with my friends and this, and that. And then, boom, unexpectedly.
Listen, they were a week away from graduation.
Wow.
They were so close to be like, oh, I'm finally graduating from, like, going up a level in life. And, like, this happens. There was this one girl that, like, I saw her story. She was, like, a day, like, literally the same day early in the morning. She just had received her honor award. And she was reportedly killed calling 911. And I'm like, I don't even want to picture this frightened, scared 10-year-old girl, 12-year-old girl just, on the phone with 911, like, there's a shooter in my school. Like, I don't even want to picture this. The images in my head clear, loud and clear, and I don't want to picture that, like, for anybody. Could you imagine being a parent and sending your kid to school, and, your expectation is you're dropping him off to school, and you expect to pick him up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon to him to be safe and, happy coming back from school, and just receiving this news that this has happened. And this is an issue of our country. This is literally an issue that has risen. We've seen this rise in the past 3 or 4 years. Have we not? In the past 3 and 4 years, these shooters just keep actively on the rise. And what I tell, like, people, I think it's a product of our culture. It's a product of also the news. For me, I feel like it's heavily influenced by the news and how we're reporting it.
How so?
I feel like that the more that you report on something, the more people get the idea of evil and what they want to do.
I saw a comment on Reddit that spoke about that potential school shooters look at how much coverage their damage gets, and so they actually like that notoriety. They like being talked about. They like the idea of knowing that, oh, if I do this much damage, I'm gonna be talked about for years, which is really crazy, bro. Like, out of everything you could do,
there needs to be a word for this where, like, news covers something so much where people get the idea that that's evil things that they want to do. There has to be a word for that. I don't know it off the top of my head, but, like, for me,
I think the word is sadistic.
Sadistic?
I think so. I could be wrong, but it's something like that.
But the media plays a role in influencing people. If they see all this coverage that people are, like, shooters are getting, and, like, they want to be an aspiring shooter, like, I'm sorry, like,
the word is sadistic.
Sadistic?
Yeah.
What is the actual definition of the word?
Sadistic means deriving pleasure from inflicting pain, suffering, or humiliation on others.
Okay, no, I was referring to something else, though. It's more like getting coverage on something so much that, like, it impacts how people want to do. It impacts, like, what they want to do.
They like the notoriety.
Yeah.
Because notoriety is...
If there's no word, it would just come up with something.
No, it's notoriety. Being notorious means that you're famous for something that's not really good in society.
I want to talk about this quote from J. Cole's song. He says, everybody mentions suicide prevention. Man, they even made a hotline to call up when there's tension. But I got a question. What about F-word homicide? Need a number for my N-word to call whenever there's an urge to get triggers involved. It's like we have a homicide, prevention hotline.
Suicide prevention hotline.
Suicide prevention hotline.
But is there a homicide prevention?
But is there a
hotline?
homicide where like these people that are like feel their need to do this type of stuff can call?
No, that is
like,
interesting.
And it's like maybe like they're in the brink of exploding and they know they're in the last step. And maybe just by calling this number, you know, something can be done to prevent this. And it's obviously need to be something confidential to an extent, you know, because this is something serious. If somebody calls you and like, oh, I'm gonna commit a crime, you know, obviously you call the police. But if there's anything, you know, any number that they can call and just talk about these kinds of stuff, you know, it does need to be a safe place. And like obviously they're sick in their head, but it also their privacy and that shit needs to get respected as well. What about a homicide hotline? That's an idea. That's a solution to this problem.
That's interesting.
It's not gonna solve everything, but it's a step. You know, at least it's an idea.
It's some kind of effort made towards preventing this.
Yeah, it's one idea is gonna do something, but we don't want people to get to that point where they're like, yo, I need to cause damage, inflict pain, and just look. I can't even imagine the parents, man. Like, imagine picking up your son and just to be informed that he's no longer alive. Like,
you drop him off in the morning and then you say, all right, son, I'll see you later. You know, you go home or you go to work thinking, I'm going to see my son again. We're going to watch this movie. We have this planned for later this week. It's tragic, bro. You know, it's evil. If we're going to talk about it for what it is, that's what it all boils down to. You know, we live in a world filled with evil. It has good in it too. I was speaking to my friend about this earlier. I said, because he sent it to me, he said, have you seen this? And I said, of course I've seen it. And he said, it's an evil world we live in. And my response was, the little bit of good that's in this world is what holds it all together. Just a little bit of good, you know, because if it wasn't for that tiny bit of good that's present here, everything would just be pure darkness. Thankfully, you know, we do have people walking in light, and they share that with people. And that's what these families need the most. They need that light shined on them in this time of darkness.
I agree. More facts about Salvador Rolando Ramos, the shooter for the school. He was taken down by the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol Technical Unit and 2 law enforcement officers. And that was 1 hour before being killed by the law enforcement. The shooter it was known that he had a rifle in his possession. And he was wearing a tactical vest, but it didn't carry no ballistic panels.
What does that mean?
So, like, he was carrying the vest, but the vest has panels in them, which prevents the bullet from, like, you know, entering the body. So he was wearing a vest, but there was no panels in it. So I think he misunderstood the whole purpose of a vest. But, like, I'm glad he misunderstood it because it gave officers a chance to, like, actually cause real damage, you know. Another sick part about this is he shot his grandma.
Nah, yeah, I heard about that. That's foul. I heard the grandmother is the one that bought him a gun. Am I wrong? Is that a fact?
I cannot confirm.
Yeah, I don't see that here. I just heard maybe that's a rumor.
But like, imagine how much you have to hate somebody's life and your own life to be able to inflict pain in your own grandmother. You know, this is a person that cares for you, that in a sense brought you into the world by bringing your mom into this world. So like, you have to be really, really messed up in the head to inflict pain on your own grandmother. Like, I could not imagine my own grandma, man. Like, I love my grandma.
This has been quite the time, man.
Apparently, he left his mother's home 2 months ago to live with his grandmother. And after he got into his argument with his grandma, like, you know, things exploded. And, like, you never know what's really happening in people's mind. And we just have to be really careful about how we treat other people.
Mental health is really important. You know, they say that he was not diagnosed with any kind of mental problems, but it's very apparent that there were. And I saw in this Reddit post, they were speaking about this issue. Not this one specifically, but just the whole issue on mass shootings. And they say one thing we can do is just raise more awareness towards taking care of mental health. You know, advertise it a lot more. And not only that, but make the resources accessible. I don't know about you, Carlos, but have you ever tried going to therapy?
You know, I've never tried going to therapy.
I've tried going to therapy. I'll be honest with you, only thing that stopped me is the financial side of things, because it is pretty expensive. You know, for an hour, you have to pay a pretty big amount, right?
Yeah. I mean,
and you know what? I get it, because they got to get paid. You know, we all got to eat at the end of the day, but, you know,
look, we all need someone to talk to. It doesn't even have to be a therapist. You know, therapist is like someone like confidential.
Nah, I think a therapist would be way better.
I mean, yes, obviously they have like the best answers to most of your questions.
Not even that, but it's just sometimes when you talk to people, sometimes people don't even listen. You know, sometimes people don't even really care to listen. Like, at least with a therapist, you actually have that confidence that they're listening because you're paying them to do so, and their whole job is to really diagnose like what could be going on here, what could be going on there, and once they give you an idea as to what you might be struggling with, they give you solutions. They offer solutions. They say, oh, if you do this instead, maybe change this inner dialogue with yourself. You know, that's important. We all get physicals, right? We all check on our physical health, but why don't we just go on a yearly basis to go see a therapist? You know, why is that not a norm? Yo, we spend all this money in public schools on bare BS. The government spends mad money on weapons and war and all this other BS. I know you seen that package that was sent to another country. It was like 4 billion or 40 billion, whatever the case. Like, yo, we need these resources invested into us. We have to look at what's happening in our own backyard. A lot of this stuff it's crazy here, man. We got to take care of our peoples. We got to use this energy and these resources to really make sure that we're straight.
Look, we gotta take care of ourselves first before we take care of anybody else. And
it sounds selfish, but it's necessary, bro. Because if you can't help yourself, how do you expect to help others?
Yeah, like Americans agree, gun violence is an issue in America, but for some reason, Congress is taking forever to pass a law to make this more not of an issue. And I get for the right to bear arms.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue, and I understand it. But again, it's like, what do? We can't just slide this under the rug, bro. We can't just let people go. We can't. Imagine making it to 40 years old, bro, and this is still going on. Nah. So, like I said, one side is saying we can't let the government take our guns. What do you think?
I think take all guns. Honestly, we had this conversation with Jason about guns, and when we started this podcast, we're like, we want to talk about important topics in this world, and we were like, what kind of topics can we do? And like, one of the topics I really wanted to talk about was gun violence and why are we allowing these things to still happen? And I'm okay. I said I'm okay with none of the citizens of America not having guns, because if they don't have guns, you know, people will always find a way to inflict pain, but at least it'll just be a knife fight.
I got you, and it's understandable. But the only problem with that is, what happens in a situation where somebody does have a gun and nobody does?
I mean, in that case, like, everybody has no gun, most likely the government will always have guns for, you know, protection of citizens against other countries.
And there's fear behind that.
That's the fear. But like,
the fear behind
I'm willing to sacrifice guns for everybody in exchange to keeping the community inside safe.
But that's the thing. It's like, is it really any safer? Because again, when you do that, you run the risk of being taken advantage of as a whole community. You run that risk, and that's something I'm willing to risk. Honestly, at this point, like, kids are dying. I don't think the government will ever go. I mean, we've seen situations, but I don't think the government will ever intentionally kill citizens, children, you know, in the U.S. specifically. And I don't think Congress or anybody will ever allow that to happen in the U.S. if guns are taken away. You know, I'm gonna have to disagree with that, because it's been done in history before. The tyrannical governments abusing their power, killing citizens, and doing all this other stuff, it's not new. It's happened before, and we've seen it. Like I said, there's one side that says, don't take away the guns, and I get it, but what's the solution if we're to keep our guns? My brother said, well, maybe if we added more security in the schools.
I was actually thinking about that. There needs to be a level of security in the school where no one can enter the school until checked. You know,
but bro, he ain't enter the school to be checked. Like, he just pulled up in there strapped.
He actually went through a back entrance of the school. So like, security measures in school need to be bigger. You know, like, nobody should be able to enter through a back door. If somebody's gonna enter the schools through the front door, you know, and be checked, you know, actually have, like, I went to a high school where, like, metal detectors, every student going in, you know. Fortunately, it was a dangerous school, but never a shootout in the school, you know. It was a dangerous school. Of course, bro,
because New York State, it's one of the hardest states to get a gun.
Yeah, it is also hardest state. I've yet to see an 18, 19-year-old guy have a gun, because I didn't even know what the age limit is, because I'm not thinking about getting a gun. But
no, like New York State, it's hard to get a handgun, right? Uh-huh. And even if you do have a handgun, you can't just walk around with it. Like, you gotta have a special license.
It's concealed, and it has to.
Nah,
be like,
trust me when I say this, bro. Guns are still out here. Guns are still around these neighborhoods, you know, illegally, of course. But again, it begs the question: what if somebody decides?
But these guns were illegal, though. He went out and bought these guns, like. First of all, the state needs to do something about it should not be that easy to get a gun, because if an 18-year-old can get a gun and have these thoughts in his mind, really. And another thing, like my boss mentioned to me, was like the NRA is funding these politicians, money to run their campaigns. So and the politicians don't want to do nothing against, anything related to guns, because their funds, they will run out of funds, and like the NRA is about to have a convention. He mentioned, I don't know if it's an actual fact, they're gonna have a convention or a conference, and they don't allow guns inside the conference. So I'm like, the hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy at its biggest. Because how are you gonna be pro guns, but no, you can't have no guns when we're talking about them,
This is really a tough issue.
Maybe if I had the solution to the world, I would give it, but I do not have a solution.
I mean, I
have ideas.
You suggested like getting rid of guns as a whole, and I do understand it. And it's a well-intentioned idea.
How do we get everybody? What does it take to remove all guns from the U.S.? Do we really have to watch this? This is gonna play out. We're gonna sit here one more time, Jason. We're gonna sit here 1, 2, 3 more times hearing about these stories break out, and I promise you, we'll hear about this again. What can we do to stop the next one?
All right, well,
Jason, we're gonna sit here.
I gotta think about that for real.
Watch this right now. We're gonna sit here and watch another shootout, and we're gonna talk about how can we change it, but we never do anything. I'm just one person. I can only suggest. Like, bro, I'm not even allowed to vote myself. I'm literally speechless. The only way for me to do anything is really through these podcasts and talking to people. So only thing I can really do is talk and do suggestions.
It brings about this idea, this thought. I think I read it somewhere, because we want to be safe, right? That's what we really want. But then the idea of, because sometimes we look to the government to provide this safety, to provide this protection and this security. But in having the government do that for us, we have to give up things. For example, if we really wanted the government to get involved, again, guns are taken away. Surveillance would be crazy. Surveillance would be a lot crazier.
Truth is, we need to sacrifice nothing. We need to sacrifice something in order to cause this change.
I get it. Yeah, and
you have to be willing to sacrifice giving up your right to bear arms to change the First Amendment. That's something huge. That people are like, no, you can't just change the amendments.
I got you.
The amendments are there to protect us, but what happens when the amendment can't protect us? What if the amendment is just straight up wrong?
Wow.
We are a country that is literally, we have like all these things that just need change. We can't just be set back in the rules set back in the old day. There needs to be a change in things like this. And we're like, why are you gonna go about changing an amendment? This is something set in stone.
But the argument always is like, what happens? Like, let's say we do go through with that. What happens when the people meant to protect us, in the same way that the amendment meant to protect us isn't protecting us? What happens when the organization, what happens when the people meant to protect us fail to protect us? What happens then? What do we do there?
I mean, first, I think first thing is starting with the laws that govern us. And if there needs to be a change to the right to bear arms, this is the right time to start making it. Because we've seen this play out for 3 years.
I got you. So let's say, like I said, if we go through with that, if we give the government organizations to strip us of these weapons, what happens, let's say 20 years down the line, when the government, the people meant to protect us, decide to abuse us? What do we do?
Well, honestly,
all we can do is just take it.
All we can do is I don't have an answer to that.
And that's
gonna be a problem for 20 years down the
It's
road.
all fear, bro. Like, this is all fear. Everybody's scared, bro.
Everybody's so scared.
Like, both sides are scared. Because one side is scared of this happening all over again, and then the other side is scared of, well, what if, okay, we go through with that, but then now everybody gets abused. There's so much fear involved in this, bro. There's this one quote by this one president. He said, there should be nothing to fear but fear itself. And I'm starting to see that, because being that all these decisions are being made in fear.
I'm scared. I'm scared for this. I'm scared where the next place is going to be. Like, I know it's going to happen. I'm scared of where it will be. Will it be next? Will it be the elementary school next to me where my cousins and brothers go to school?
I hope not. I really hope not.
We're so scared. All these decisions I made, all the All laws that we made are based on experience and fear of something. Any law that has ever been made was because something bad happened and it needs to be changed. So why are we not doing it now? Why is it taking so long for the Congress to pass some federal law that mandates,
Carlos, I just explained it to you.
Fear.
It's fear of being abused. One side is scared of this happening again, and the other side is scared of a potential threat. This is tough, bro, and I'll be honest with you, being that I'm only 20 years old, I don't have the solutions. I can tell you that I understand both sides. I can tell you that I don't like this just as much as anybody else. But what I can't tell you is what the true solution would be. Because, again, I don't think getting rid of the guns is really the full-on solution, because that can lead to even greater problems. And at the same time, I don't believe that not doing anything does any better. This is tough, man. I mean, I think the only one who knows is the man upstairs. I be thinking that. I be thinking sometimes, like, what would God say about, like, what would he do? Because we're only human.
I most definitely don't think God is out there thinking, I want these things to happen. We have freedom of choice for a reason. He gave us freedom to make our own choices for a reason. And, that comes with good and bad. That's just human nature.
People tend to choose bad. But my point is, like, I just think if we were to ask God, what is the solution to this? Because this is a touchy issue. I wonder what he would say. And you know what? Maybe he has said it already.
You have to wonder, what would a higher power think of what we're doing? I'm not a personal believer of God, but like these type of moments just make me question, like, what would God do?
Like, just the creator, man, because there's more to this. Definitely is.
I just wish I had a solution to this problem, and I wish it could be implemented immediately so this does not happen again. And Jason, I promise you, we'll sit here a couple months from now and we'll hear the same story play out the same way. One person goes out, buys a gun, does something horrible like this.
I would hope
we're gonna hear this play out again.
I would really.
You can hope not. You can hope not.
That's all I can do, bro. Like, what else can we do? I mean, I sound terrible right now talking about what else can we do, but I think a great start is banning all guns. That is a great start. That is something. Like I said, I already explained to you the potential problems with that. And when I asked you, what do you do when your protectors turn into your abusers? What do you do in that instance? And again,
what about local stashes?
Local stashes
of weapons.
All right. Thank you. All right, you're going somewhere.
What about when the government turns against you? There's a stash out there for the people.
But how can there be a stash if all of the guns are taken away?
Take them all to a stash, like literally a building, arms center or some shit.
But who?
And let the local government, like local people, take care of the stash. All right. If there's ever an issue with the government where we actually feel like there needs to be guns involved, all right, arms up. That does not infringe that does not infringe the right to bear arms. We bear arms as people, as a community, but not as individuals.
Keep it a stack. It's crazy because it's really the people against the people. Because when we talk about
this is an issue between the people.
If we were to talk about, oh, the government goes against us, we're really just saying people. And we're not, when we say the government, we're not talking about these old politicians. We're talking about regular people just like us, regular people in the police force, regular people in the military, Oh, man, this is just...
Look, this is an issue between the people. I don't think the government can do much. Most of our problems that we had is like, okay, the government against the people, blah, 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 blah. There's someone up higher out there. But this is an internal issue, And this needs to be solved as a collective, as a society, where we just all come together and figure something out. Maybe the answer to this question is not removing arms from people. Maybe it's just changing the way we think about how we do things.
I like the idea of a stash. There's something about that, like a militia.
Yes.
But man, this is... I kind of see it, and maybe it would be able to work.
In a way, it's like arm the people, but not directly. Give them the right to have power, physical power, and I don't just mean like political power. I mean, in case in any moment where the military feels like there's a need to start shooting at people, there's a need to like go against the people. People do have the right, I have a strong feeling. Not strong feeling thing like where the government, that the people do need to be able to protect themselves against the government. But why are you protecting yourself against your own people, your own community? If there's not guns in the community, all right, that's a safe stash. We know there's guns. Then, in case of any tragic event, we're able to go to the stash. All right, we get armed. right? But we know that at least.
But what if you don't know how to use the gun?
What if in our community, let's build a training squad where, like, bro, have 1 hour session of just learning how to use a weapon, and everybody will be more informed about weapons.
But isn't that what the police are for?
Look,
Think about that. Think about that. You're describing the police, basically.
We're talking of, yes, okay, but sometimes
meant to keep the community safe.
Yes, they're meant to keep the community safe, but we know how the government rolls sometimes. We know that even that police could turn against you, and the government is police.
And I had that thought too. It all comes down to when you look at human nature and the way humans work, like there's always a cycle of abuse of power. And this is gonna sound crazy, Carlos, but what if there was no answer? Seriously, like, think about it. What if there was no answer?
What about, how do we come to this issue? How do we get to this point? Maybe the way to answer this question is, how do we get to the point where we're having these shootouts?
I saw a TED Talk yesterday talking about that, and this man said back in the 80s, the NRA, right, the National Rifle Association, they were running these campaigns. Okay, so prior to the 80s, people had guns, but the only reason why they had guns was to hunt. So guns was having a gun. Guns were something that brought people together.
Yeah.
You would go out with your dad and your cousin to go kill a bear, and that was something good.
I mean, it's messed up, but, like, at least it's not a human being.
Honestly, it is what it is. Humans have been hunting since the beginning of time.
I get it.
As long as it's not like an endangered species or whatever. But after the 80s, the NRA starts running these campaigns telling women that they should buy a gun because what if they need to protect themselves? What if they're about to get robbed, or what if this happens? Hold up. Hear this out. So now it goes from guns being something to bring people together, killing animals, hunting and all that, going at the range, trying out these guns. Now it transforms into, well, this is no longer about hunting. This is no longer about bringing people together. This is about protecting myself against another human being. Like,
maybe it was the way that these type of things were even advertised, because we do know advertisement plays a big role in our psychology. And maybe people stop feeling we need guns to protect ourselves against the government, tyrannical things, and we need guns to hunt out and have a family moment. And the idea shifted between those things to, okay, I need a gun to protect myself against robbers and all this other stuff. And then it became, okay, I have a gun, what else can I do with it? Maybe the idea of owning a gun changed, but like, it was so, most people didn't think about it, and it just happened in the back of our heads, and that plays with a collective psychology of what guns really meant. I think of gun now, I'm like, okay, if someone has a gun, it's probably to kill someone or protect someone.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I'm gonna go hunt a bear.
It's no longer, when you think of a gun, you're not thinking about going hunting. You're not thinking about getting together with your family to go have a good time in the woods.
And maybe the NRA does have, I know for a fact the NRA has to do something.
But you know something?
There has to be.
They promoted that because it helped their sales. They told women, buy your guns because it'll keep you safe.
Bro, what I say is, it all turns back around to money. Money is the root to most evil. I wouldn't say all. I can't say all. But the money is the root to most evil.
That's not the quote. It's the love of money is the root of all evil.
Well,
there's a difference.
The love of money is the root to most evil. Yeah. I'll change it up a little bit because I was informed as a high schooler that I should not use all until I'm really sure that it means inclusive to all.
Just money itself?
Just using the word all. Like, you can't put people you can't use the word all if you're not really meant to include everybody. And I think money is the root to most evil, not all.
Nah. I think it's the love, because money itself, if you put a stack of money on the table, like, the money's not going to do anything. It's just pieces of paper. But now when you have somebody that loves this money, like really loves it, that person might be willing to do something bad to obtain this thing which they love.
So what about, I'm offering another solution. What about if we change the idea of guns? Maybe if the root of where we are at this point is the way we think about guns, why don't we shift the idea? Why don't we bring guns to unite people back?
I think that's possible.
We could change. We literally need to subliminally or intentionally change that psychology of how people think about guns.
I think that's possible.
Because, we've offered some solutions. We're not a higher power. We can't. This is just one way of solving. If anybody watches this and thinks about something,
honestly, instead of going out to hurt people, why not just take that out on an animal? It still sucks, but I'd rather you kill a bear than to kill somebody.
Yeah, I'm anti-killing animals, but
Yo, it's like I'd rather the animal go. Like I said, it's pretty tragic. I love animals too, but bro, if it's between if it's between you or a bear, I'm picking the bear to go.
I mean, if it's between me and children, if between the bear and children, I'll choose the bear too.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. You have 3 solutions. Remove guns from everybody.
That's one way to go about it.
Public stashes.
That's an interesting idea.
It's still removing guns from everybody, but keeping a public stash.
Keeping it in such a way that if anything were to go wrong.
I feel like that's a middle ground between, the right to bear arms and keeping everybody armed and still being safe, and then changing the psychology of everybody. And it could be it could be all together. Honestly, it could work together. We change the way we think about guns, we create those stashes, and we remain that right to bear arms. There needs to be a middle ground. There's always a middle ground in something. The thing that we don't have right now is a solution, and we don't have a middle ground. This extremist to every side, but where is the middle ground? And public stashes could be the perfect middle ground, and I think that's honestly could be a solution to our problem.
I like the idea of stashes. Like I said,
because
I would have to look more.
Jason,
into that.
we know you are anti-removing guns, right? From the public. Anti-removing guns from the public, like taking everybody's guns.
I don't think
you stand solid on that idea.
I don't think it's the best idea.
Okay, and I stand pro. But one thing we can agree on is that we need a solution to this problem, and one of those solutions could be changing the psychology of people, the way we think about guns, and creating public stashes where everybody has access to those guns, if anything. Will you say that's the middle ground?
It's an interesting idea. That's what I'm saying. It definitely is an interesting idea. It would take a lot of work to really get that right, though, because I'm already thinking of potential problems with that